Council, good morning. There's one housekeeping matter that I wanted to put on the record yesterday and realized I did not, and that relates to the, I think, Court Exhibit Number 1 with the supplement. Attorney Morrow and Attorney Uhas indicated that they did not realize that it was a supplement, and of course did not turn it over to the prosecutor. Even had they turned it over on Sunday or Monday, clearly it was something that the state argued and the court agreed would be prejudicial if it were to be admitted. So simply wanted to indicate that that would have been excluded even if provided to the state of Ohio. You may call your next witness.
Principal Joseph Yurich.
If you would step right up and raise your right hand.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, Your Honor.
You may be seated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've heard us all through the trial talk about how you really almost have to yell to be heard, so I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up, okay?
Yes.
Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Joseph Froilan Yurich. Middle name is F-R-O-I-L-A-N. Last name is Yurich, Y-U-R-I-C-H.
And where do you live?
I live in Poland, Ohio.
And who do you live with?
I live with my wife and my 5 children.
Your wife's name?
My wife is Angelina Rodriguez. My children, my oldest is Sophia Yurich. She's 13. My son Dominic is 10. Charlie is going to be 3. Joey is 20 months. And Hendrix is our newborn, and he's 5 weeks old. 4 or 5 weeks, I'm sorry.
You said you live with your 5 kids. Do you have custody of your 2 oldest?
I have a shared parenting with my ex-wife, who just recently moved across the street with her husband, so I get to interact with them on a daily basis.
So your ex-wife and your 2 children live right across the street?
Yes.
That must be an interesting dynamic?
It's good for the kids. Everybody gets along and is cordial, and we try to do what's best in the interest of our children.
How long have you been married to Angelina?
Angelina and I have been married for 4 years. We met in 2012, and we got married in 2013.
What is your current trade, profession, or occupation?
I'm a general surgeon. After completing medical school, I did a residency training for 5 years in the field of general surgery. So I operate on anything from any body compartment that I have privileges to at the hospitals that I practice.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about your education. Were you born and raised in this area?
I was born in Youngstown and raised on the south side of Youngstown.
After high school, where did you go to college?
Sure. I went to YSU for my undergraduate degree, which was a bachelor's in science. Completed that in 3 years. And after that, I went to Northeast Ohio University's College of Medicine, also known as Neo-UCOM, changed the name now to NeoMed, for 4 years to get my medical degree.
When did you finish up at NeoMed?
I finished NeoMed in 2004, after which time I chose to do my residency training at St. Elizabeth's in Youngstown because I wanted to stay local and practice in my community.
Describe for me the process of taking your boards and getting your certification, board certification.
To be licensed as a physician, you have to take what's called USMLE, and there's 3 steps to that. You'll take the first 2 steps during your medical school training. The last step will be completed after your first year of residency training. Upon completion of that, in finishing your residency program in your respective field, In mine in particular, general surgery, I take a qualifying exam, which is a written exam, to allow me to sit for my oral board exam to be certified as a general surgeon.
And when did you become certified as a general surgeon?
2010 was when I completed the board process.
When you do the USMLE?
Yes, ma'am.
Are all the initials in there? When you do that, is that specifically geared towards the area you're specializing in, surgery? Or is it an overview of everything?
That's an overview of all practices and all specialties of medicine.
Do you remember when you decided you wanted to be a doctor?
Sometime in my early years of high school, I had some injuries to my knee, and just with my interactions with the physician, he influenced me, and I really respected what he had done and what he had done for me. So that shaped me into wanting to become a physician.
Sort of piqued your interest in that area?
Yes.
You said you had some injuries to your knee. Have you had surgery on your knee?
Yes.
Which knee?
My right knee.
How many surgeries have you had?
I've had 3 surgeries, 2 arthroscopies, and 1 ACL reconstruction.
Do you still have some difficulties with that knee periodically?
Yes, arthritis has compounded over time. It causes me to limp occasionally if I'm sitting or standing for long periods of time.
At some point in time, you entered the military, Joe.
Yes.
Can you tell us when you decided to enter the military?
During medical school, shortly after 9/11, watching the series of events that had occurred, I felt that upon completion of a medical degree, I could offer some service to my country.
So how did you go about joining the military?
I met with an Army recruiter and signed the papers, and that was it.
You were still in medical school when this happened?
Yes.
So tell me what type of training you had to go through once you entered the military.
So I entered through an officer's program. Upon completion of medical school, I was not to be deployed until I finished my residency training in general surgery. So during that time, I would participate in various drills in preparation, and also did a basic training course.
How long was that basic training?
Fortunately for officers and physicians, it was only 5 weeks.
So you finished, you said you were not to be deployed until you finished your general surgery. I missed that part.
Yes, I was not to be deployed until I finished my general surgery residency. So in 2009, I finished my general surgery residency and was able to practice the field of general surgery on my own, being board eligible, as I had not taken all of my boards. I started my practice in town, private practice, and 3 months into that practice, I was deployed to Iraq.
What part of Iraq were you deployed to?
I was deployed to northern Iraq, specifically to Tikrit. From there, I had moved on various occasions to different bases depending on what my mission status was. I was deployed with what's called a forward surgical team. That particular one was out of Indianapolis. I really never met the team until I would get into theater as a physician and a reserve physician. My duties included being a general surgeon or practicing as a 61 Juliet and performing field surgery or surgery to sustain injuries and control injuries and ship the injured to higher levels of care, as we were often in areas where we didn't have many resources.
So if someone has watched the television show MASH, are you familiar with that show?
Yes.
How similar was your experience? Were you doing the initial triage and assessment of damages and sending them on like we often saw in that show?
Yes, any soldier or civilian that was injured by IED blast, gunshot wounds, I would be involved in the initial care upon them coming to our base, or in some cases when we were off the base.
You said you were in Tikrit.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that in the active war zone?
I've been deployed 3 times, and all 3 of my deployments have been in what's called a combat zone, meaning there's imminent enemy threat and danger. Frequently, our bases would get mortared or hit with rockets, what's called indirect fire.
You referenced that you went to Tikrit, but that you were actually off the base several times.
Yes, part of my role as a forward surgical team is to augment missions throughout theater, in particular special forces or other operations that may be running missions that would need medical support. So part of our unit could be split and deployed to various regions of the operating or of the theater to augment those missions and supply medical support. Also, I was tasked with a few missions, what's called PRT missions, or Provincial Reconstruction Team, where we would venture out into the various towns and spend time with the local authorities or people in charge of their hospitals to see if there was any way we could write grants to get them government aid for their hospitals and their local care.
When you would leave base, would you go through the active war zone?
Yes, we would convoy oftentimes 4 to 6 hours at a time.
I'm sorry, how long?
4 to 6 hours at a time.
And what would you be transported in?
We'd be transported in what's called an MRAP. It's an up-armored vehicle. Basically, there's a driver and a front seat passenger. There's a gunner standing in a turret with usually a .50 caliber automatic rifle.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Let's,
I believe it goes to the issue we discussed inside.
I'm sorry.
So it goes to the issue we discussed inside orders.
Relevance still.
let's get there.
So, in this first combat mission, you said there was direct fire and indirect fire that hit your base.
Yes, ma'am.
Objection.
Overruled.
Can you describe what happened that day?
I was standing outside walking back from the latrine and heard a whistle and a loud impact. It was an explosion.
How close to you was the explosion?
It was probably about 100 yards, maybe less. I don't remember. I was knocked to the ground. I remember being scared. Sorry.
It's okay. Do you need a glass of water?
No, I'm fine. I don't like to talk about it. And immediately, things tend to go slow. You don't hear anything. You don't know what's going on. You just react. And what we had been told to do in that scenario in pre-deployment training is to grab your gear and get to your duty stations. I ended up operating that night on a significant number of our female nurses who had been injured.
Was it more than one blast that happened?
That was the first blast that I had experienced in 2009, but through my deployments, I had experienced others.
Any that close as
No.
in the first instance? You heard Lieutenant Johnson testify, did you not, in the trial?
Yes, ma'am.
And he testified that, well, you heard testimony that you left after the accident and said something as you drove away.
Objection.
Overruled.
Did you leave after this accident?
Yes.
There was testimony that you told Lieutenant...
Objection.
May I see counsel? You may proceed.
Thank you. You heard Lieutenant Johnson testify that night when he was talking to you, you said you did not say anything before you left, but if you did, you did not remember anything. Can you tell us, was that accurate? Is that what you said to Lieutenant Johnson?
That's what I said.
Can you tell us why?
I don't remember saying anything. And if I did, I would not have said those things that he said under normal circumstances.
So when you told him you didn't remember anything, why did you tell him that?
The last thing I remember from the accident was an explosion. When I heard that explosion, it triggered some memories for me. I don't remember anything else from the accident until I was over near the state park on the south side of the lake. And
When you said it triggered some memories for you, when you heard the explosion, what exactly happened?
the
Overruled.
The explosion sounded similar to what I experienced in Iraq. The explosion reminded me of the indirect fire.
And what happened to you when you had that recollection that it seemed similar?
It brought back memories, and I felt like in the moment I relived that experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you tell Lieutenant Johnson you don't remember what
Yes.
happened? What do you do in response to that, the fact that you can't remember?
I was embarrassed that I couldn't remember. The following week after the accident, I sought counsel and treatment with a psychiatrist.
Objection.
Sustained.
You had, you can't just testify, you went to the doctor without providing a diagnosis.
Yes,
I'm sorry. He can or cannot?
he can.
Okay. We'll not go any further. So you just indicated that, the following week you went to the psychiatrist.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you testified that you heard an explosion and you went back, in that moment, back to Iraq.
Yes.
Can I have you come down and explain where that occurred?
Yes.
Do you know generally where you were on the
Attorney
lake?
Morrow.
Do you know generally where you were on the lake when you heard that explosion?
I would say the white pin probably accurately reflects that.
And you testified that when you heard that explosion, you do not remember anything else until you were somewhere else in the lake. And where were you?
I remember being over in the vicinity of the state park in Dutch Harbor, kind of in this region over here, heading towards my daughter from Cove at the time.
Between when you're up by this white pin and down, and you're pointing in the vicinity where it actually says Mahoney County on this map. Tell me what, if anything, you remember between the push pin and down here.
I'm sorry. What, if anything, you remember?
Between the push pin and when you're down here.
I don't remember anything from that moment.
Can you tell me specifically what you remember when you are down here? I'm going to forget the document of all this.
This is one of the state parks. This is Dutch Harbor.
Okay.
Talks.
So you were initially motioning up by the state park, where you first recall.
Yes.
Tell me specifically what you remember.
I remember being scared. I remember being scared, not sure what the explosion was. And I remember trying to get home. At that point, I felt I was near home, that I could get to my dock and try to figure out what had happened. If I thought in my head, did I hit something? Did I hit a rock? Did I hit debris in the lake?
So at that moment, you did not know what caused that loud explosion?
No, I did not.
Fair to say that you realized that loud explosion was close to you?
Yes.
Did you realize at that moment your boat had hit something?
I had felt that I had hit something, but I did not know what it was.
I'd like to, if we could, back up further into the day of May 8th. Do you remember coming out to Berlin Lake that day?
Yes. I worked in the morning. Angelina and I had planned on a half day of work.
Do you remember what time you woke up that morning?
Around 5:30 in the morning.
And what time did you work till?
I probably worked, and again, around 11.
Could have been a little longer, could have been a little shorter.
Correct.
What did you do when you got off work?
Went home. We got our things together. It was just Angelina and Charlie and I at the time. We headed out. And we stopped at the grocery store to get some things, as a few friends were, a couple were coming out the next day. And then we headed out to our place on Hawthorne.
Do you remember that morning? Did you eat breakfast?
Yes, I had some donuts and pastries in the lounge at Southwoods. That's my operative day at Southwoods.
That was what?
Fridays are my operative days at Southwoods.
And there's usually some pastries laying around and you rely on that for breakfast?
Yes.
How about for lunch? Did you eat lunch before you left?
Yes,
Or-
I usually eat lunch around 10 to 10:30. I'm the first one into the cafe at Southwoods, and I will eat a sandwich,
Do you specifically recall what you had for lunch that day?
turkey sandwich.
Anything with the turkey sandwich?
I don't remember.
Okay. So you leave work, you head home and head out to the lake. Joe, how much do you weigh?
220 pounds,
And back in 2015, how much did you weigh?
anywhere from 220 to 230 pounds.
Now, there's been some testimony about you going down to the dock to get the boat ready. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
Was your boat already in the lake that day? Had you taken it out and put it in the lake for the year?
yes, it had. I had put it in, I believe, the week before, and it was at my dock at the time.
And it was, I'm sorry, at your dock?
At the dock.
You're starting to trail off at the end, and I'm missing some of your words. So what was involved with going down to the dock to get ready to go out on the lake?
Untarp the boat, make sure I had fuel, turn the battery on. I'd usually start it up because if it hadn't been running a week, the force cycle needs to run a little bit. And
Okay, you just said you have a full four cycle. Can you describe your boat for us? Size, color, shape?
it's a Bayliner 185, which is 18 and a half feet. It's got a red stripe and it's white. The engine is a Mercruiser 3-liter, which is a 4-cylinder. The horsepower, I'm not certain, it's 120 to 135.
How long did you have the boat?
Purchased the boat in 2011, so at that point for 4 years.
And during the 4 years you had it, was it always at Berlin Lake?
No. Prior to that, I had kept it at my house in storage in the winter, prior to me meeting Angelina, and I would trailer it to various locations if I was going to use it. In 2012 was the first time I had taken it on on Berlin after I met Angelina.
So after you met Angelina, would you keep it docked at the Hawthorne residence?
Not until after we were married, so 2013.
But that year prior to marriage, you would take your boat? That year prior to your marriage, you would take the boat out to Berlin?
Yes.
You had described generally your boat. Is there what we've been calling a wake bar,
It's called a wake tower.
wake tower?
It's used for pulling skiers and tubes, and particularly wakeboarding. Keeps the rope off the water.
Can you describe what is on your wake tower?
There are 2 speakers.
Any lighting at all on there?
No lighting.
So from 2012 until 2015, had you been from the Hawthorne residence up to the campsite where Andy kept his boat before?
Yes.
Is that a route you routinely took?
Yes.
So you go down to get your boat ready on May 8th. Where is Angelina, if you know?
She was in the house packing up some things for the baby, towels, getting her secured. I believe we had talked. I don't remember if I called her or she called me to communicate, are we ready to go? And at that point, she came down to the dock.
How old was Charlie at this point in time?
Charlie was 10 months old.
Now, as you sit here today, do you know what time you guys left your dock to go out on the lake that afternoon?
I would say mid-afternoon. Exact time, around 3:30.
Okay. How long were you out on the lake that afternoon?
A few hours. We were home around 6.
And while you guys were out, where did you go on the lake that day?
We went to an area commonly called the beach, but it's an area where the land is a little flatter, and at various water levels you can pull your boat up onto shore a little bit and tie off and hang out.
Do you recall as you sit here today eating anything while you were at the beach?
No,
Do you recall if there were snacks on the boat?
there were chips, Doritos, and Cheerios for the baby.
How about when you were in the boat? I asked you if while you were on the beach you had anything to eat. How about while you were in the boat that afternoon? Did you have anything to eat?
Yes, I ate some of the snacks that we had brought.
After you left the beach area, where did you go?
We went home. Went home because 10-month-old doesn't last too long in the boat and out in the sun, and we went home to get dinner together.
Do you recall what you had for dinner that night?
Yes, I made hot dogs on the grill, and I believe we had some chips to go along with it. The next day we were going to have a better meal, so we just made it quick and easy.
Okay. Do you recall how many hot dogs you had that night?
I remember eating at least 3.
Possibly more?
Yes.
How many do you normally eat?
A pack of 8. If it's just Angelina and I and the baby, they'll each have 1, and I would finish the rest.
So, is there any point in time that afternoon where you're out in any boat with anyone other than Angelina and the baby?
No.
Are you ever in any boat other than your own that afternoon?
No.
So, if you recall, as you sit here today, do you know about what time you would have finished up dinner? Or is it just purely guessing?
Around 7.
Could have been earlier,
Could have been earlier.
could have been later.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do after you finish dinner?
Hang out with Angelina and the baby. Get things cleaned up. We put her pack and play together, which is her crib to sleep in. In the evening, I got a phone call from Andy around 9 o'clock. And Angelina and I had talked about me going out.
Now, you've already heard her testify. She was pouting about you going out.
Yes.
What do you recall about your decision to go out that evening?
Basically, we had talked about me going out versus staying home. She was kind enough to give in and let me go out. She said I worked a lot and didn't usually go out by myself without her.
So this was May of 2015. As you sit here today, do you recall prior to that date, the last time you went and hung out with some friends
No,
without Angelina and the baby?
no,
Do you go on a normal golf routine with buddies?
no.
So tell me, when you leave the house, what do you remember? What happens when you leave the house?
It was still sunlight, probably just becoming sunset, and I took my boat over to Andy's campground.
Did you stop anywhere on your way over to Andy's?
No,
Do you remember, as you sit here today, how long it took you to get over to Andy's?
approximately 20 minutes.
Are there times, well, is it possible it took longer than 20 minutes?
It could have,
Possible it was less than 20 minutes?
yes.
So when you get over to Andy's, what route do you take to go?
I taxi out of our cove to the main portion of the lake. I would go towards the right, towards Dutch Harbor and the state park, because to the left of that there's some sandbars in areas that tend to be low. And I would go towards the 224 bridge, cross the bridge, and then head north to their campsite.
Was it still light out when you did this?
Yes.
Do you recall, as you sit here today, what the traffic was like that?
I don't remember.
So you go up to Andy's, and what happens when you go there?
He'd called right as I was tying my boat to their docks and said they were waiting for me to come on up. And when I walked up, we got into his friend Ben's truck and drove to Ben's restaurant.
Did you hang out on the dock when you first got there, or did you just leave immediately?
No, just walked up, we got into the car and left.
Portions of the video from Ben's have been played, and you were here to watch those. Do you remember being in Ben's that evening?
Yes.
Do you know how many drinks you had in Ben's that evening?
I had 2 beers and 2 mini beers.
And what is a mini beer?
That is an ounce of the Core 43, which is a cordial topped with heavy cream to have the appearance of a small beer.
Do you know in relation to a shot of whiskey, the alcohol content for a mini beer?
Objection.
If he knows.
A mini beer is around 30% alcohol, and a standard vodka whiskey is about 80%, or 80 proof, 40%, so 30% versus 40% alcohol by volume.
The video from Ben's shows you on your phone what I did that night. Do you recall being in Ben's on your phone?
Yes.
And what were you doing on your phone?
Texting a friend of mine about the Cavs game. I forget which one, but it was during the Cavs play, one of their playoff games in 2015.
Do you recall how long of an exchange you had with him about the Cavs
No.
game? Do you recall how long you were at Ben's that night?
About an hour.
Can you describe for us when you left Ben's how you felt?
I felt fine. Didn't feel any different than I do at any other part of the day.
Okay. Did you have, personally, did you have any indication that you thought you had drank too much?
No.
So you leave Ben's and what do?
We get into Ben's truck. Andy wanted to go through the TNT drive-through to visit a friend, and we went through there. He got I believe, a Monster energy drink, and then we went back to their campsite.
How long were you at the campsite before you left that night?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Did you have anything to drink that evening while you were back at the campsite?
I'd started a beer at the dock, but I didn't finish it.
Why didn't you finish it?
Angelina had called me and was worried because it was late, so I wanted to get home to her.
Okay. Do you know what time she called?
She called around 11:30. I told her everything was fine and that I was getting ready to wrap it up and say goodbye to everybody and would be heading home.
If there were occasions where you would not be with Angela, late in the day or in the evening, was that fairly commonplace for her to call and check on you and see when you were going to be home?
Yes, she'll even call if I'm on call and have to leave to do a case at night. She'll call and ask me, or text me, how long are you going to be, what time are you going to be home. She tends to worry.
So, from your perspective, was her calling you around 11:30 anything out of the ordinary normal for her?
No, it wasn't.
Did you get out of there as quickly as you wanted to after she called?
No, I ended up saying goodbye to a few people. A boat had pulled up with about 6 to 8 people, and was kind of chatting with them and saying goodbye. It was one of the first times that everybody had kind of seen each other in a long time, so just chit-chat, and I tend to talk too much. So,
Whose boat pulled up?
Adam,
And how many people were on it?
I don't remember, it was quite a few people, I would say 6 to 8.
Were you there when it pulled up?
Yes.
Describe what you observed when that boat pulled up to the dock by Andy's.
They had their music on. They pulled into Adam's slip, and I walked over and started helping them get off. The docks can be a little bit wobbly as they're floats, so I was helping, in particular, the females get off the boat.
So, if you know, what time did you pull out of Andy's dock that night?
I don't remember the exact time. Sometime before midnight.
Okay. We know Angelina, I think you testified, she called around 11:30, so somewhere between 11:30 and before midnight.
Yes.
Fair enough. Describe what you do when you pull out of the dock that night.
I cleared their docks. I looked around. I didn't see any lights. It was dark. In particular, I was looking for boating lights. I didn't observe any other traffic on that side of the lake. And I wanted to get home to Angelina, so I accelerated.
Did you know the nighttime speed limit?
Yes.
Did you observe the nighttime speed limit?
No, I was going faster than 10 miles an hour.
When you said you looked around as you came out, what direction did you look around?
I usually check my 360, so I looked all around. I didn't observe any other traffic. I observed no boating lights, no navigation lights, or anchor lights, the 360-degree bow light. and headed in the vicinity of the bridge, the
And-
224 bridge.
At that point in time, did you observe any other lighting along the shore or horizon?
When I got closer to the bridge, I remember making out some small lights on the bridge to kind of get my direction.
And what do you mean by that?
Could have been people fishing.
I meant, what do you mean by to get your direction?
When you're traveling, and this was one of the few times I'd been on the lake at night by myself, kind of use the horizon to guide where I'm going. Rechecking your closer vision, rechecking your farther field of vision to see where you could observe lights or other traffic.
From the point that you left Andy's dock until you hear the explosion, is that what you were doing?
Yes,
When you were in your boat, from the point that you leave the dock until you hear the explosion, are you ever on your telephone that evening?
no.
How do you know that?
I had my phone plugged into my radio and stored in, there's an indentation, a little drawer on my boat that I would keep it, and I had some music on.
So there was some testimony about this cord that was hanging down from the dashboard area. Do you know what color that cord is?
Cord's blue.
And that is not a charger?
No,
That's to plug in for music.
plugs into the auxiliary port on a radio and into the headphone jack of the phone or iPod or other device.
When you leave the dock, do you open your boat up full throttle?
No.
Have you ever opened your boat up on the lake full throttle?
I have. I don't like to go too fast. I don't like to lose that control.
Now, you said that you fairly, if you were out there going to Andy's, you frequently drove that route. Can you describe what the conditions were that evening when you left Andy's?
I didn't see any other traffic. It was dark.
Do you recall if there were any clouds out or fog or anything like that, raining?
I don't remember any rain or fog. I don't believe the moon was out.
Have you been drunk before, Joe? Where you had too much to drink?
Yes.
Do you know what you feel like when you drink too much?
Yes, ma'am.
When you left the dock at Andy's that night, did you in any way feel like you would drink too much?
No.
Objection.
Do you know, as you came across the lake that night and you're heading towards the bridge, do you know how fast you were traveling?
No. Around 20 miles an hour.
Do you know, do you have a recollection of whether or not you had planed your boat already when you heard this explosion?
No.
Do you know at what speed you can plane your boat? Have you ever paid attention?
No, I never paid attention to the exact numbers.
Describe for me what you do to reach plane and what you do once you're on plane, when you're driving your boat.
If I was going to plane the boat, I would accelerate until the boat was on plane, and at that point, adjust my throttle to a comfortable speed where I felt I had control of the boat.
When you say adjust your throttle, do you mean adjust it up, adjust it down?
Yes, you can adjust your throttle up to accelerate or pull your throttle back to decelerate.
Do you have any independent recollection as you sit here today of what you did prior to this explosion? Were you throttling up, throttling down?
I remember throttling back to a speed I felt comfortable and safe and reasonable, given I didn't observe any other traffic.
You've already testified about when you heard this explosion, that you were back in Iraq. do you have any recollection of hearing anything around you on the lake that night when that explosion happened?
No, I don't remember hearing anything.
Do you know what time you got back to your dock on Hawthorne?
It was after midnight. I remember trying to figure out what had happened, so I decided to call Andy. And I remember trying to call him about 12:09 and couldn't get through. And I believe I called again, and then I got through to Andy.
When you first get back to your dock, is that the first thing you do?
No. What I did was tied the boat to the side rails to secure it, and then I looked for my phone, which I found under the passenger seat, and then I couldn't find my glasses.
When you snap out of it, when you're down here at this end of the lake, where were you physically in your boat?
I was driving.
At that point in time, did you realize that you had hit your neck on something?
No,
How about when you got back at your dock, did you realize you had hit your neck on something?
no,
So you get back, you're looking for your phone, and I think you said your glasses.
yes.
Any idea about how long that took for you to find your phone and glasses?
I would say I never found my glasses, but about 5 minutes to tie the boat and look for my phone.
So, how come you call Andy first?
I just left being with those guys, and they were familiar with the lake, and I wanted to see if they had heard that explosion that I had heard and try to help me figure out what had happened.
When you are down on this south end by the state park, did you realize there had been damage to your boat?
Not yet.
Pardon me?
Not at that point. Not until I got to the dock.
Okay, I was going to ask you next. When do you realize there was damage to your boat?
I didn't have a flashlight with me, but I could see that there was what I thought a scrape at the time in the front bow on the left side of the boat.
When you are by the state park on the south side of the lake, were you concerned that the explosion may have damaged your boat?
Yes, I was concerned. I was afraid with that loud of a sound so close. I felt possibly could I be taking on water? Was there anything to be concerned about with the structure of the boat? So I tried to get back to my dock and home as soon as possible.
So you said you called Andy a couple times and didn't get an answer. When you finally contacted Andy, what do you remember about that conversation?
Andy said he couldn't talk. He was on a distress call, and that's what I remember from the conversation. And that made me nervous. I didn't know why he would be responding to a distress call.
So when you say it made you nervous, what do you mean by that?
Was anxious, scared. At that point, I still did not know what had happened, what I had hit, why the explosion had happened.
So what do you do next after you get off the phone with Andy?
Angelina calls me, says she can see me down at the dock.
Do you know at that point in time how long you've been down at the dock?
I would say about 10 minutes.
By the time she calls you, had you been anywhere besides on the dock?
There's 2 lights in the front. When I'd come up the steps into the grass area, I'd been there for a little bit.
At that point in time, were you having any difficulty maintaining your balance or walking?
No.
So how come when you got off the phone with Andy, you didn't just go up to the house?
I was trying to process what was going on. I was anxious and nervous. I was embarrassed that I couldn't remember.
Have you ever had a similar experience as you did that night where you had this flashback to being anyone in the room?
No, that,
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you recall ever having similar occurrences to what happened on the lake this time?
Objection.
Yeah, see counsel.
You may proceed.
Had you ever had anything like that happen to you before?
no. Other than my experience.
Objection.
Sustained.
Other than what you testified to in Iraq,
Yes.
since you came home from the war, nothing like that?
Objection.
Form. Sustained as to form.
From the time you came home from the war until May 8th, 2015, did anything like that happen to you before?
No.
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you receive any other calls while you were down in the dock yet?
No.
So you said you're down at the dock about 10 minutes before you go up. Do you remember walking up to the house?
Yes.
Did you have any difficulty walking up to the house?
No, it was dark. There's a pallet or a small bridge that traverses like a ravine indentation in the grass that we used to cross. Walked over that and walked to the dining room side of the house and up the stairs. And Angelina was waiting for me at the door.
Was that unusual?
No.
Did you explain to Angelina at that point in time what you experienced out on the lake?
Yes, I told her that I heard an explosion. I didn't really know what happened. I raced home, secured the boat, and I told her I called Andy. Andy really didn't tell me anything other than he was on a distress call. And I believe at that point I started trying to call other people to see if I could figure out what had happened.
Why were you trying to figure out what happened?
Because I couldn't remember.
At some point, well, how long were you trying to call other people?
I would say a few minutes, but Angelina kind of took my phone and told me to relax, and we tried to talk through it and see if we could help me remember what had happened.
At some point in time, do you know how long it was? Let me ask it this way. Do you know how long it was before you confirmed that a boat had been hit on the lake?
I would say about an hour.
And prior to confirming that you hit a boat, had you ever suggested calling 911 or made an effort to call 911?
Yes. Before we had confirmed through Angelina's call with Sherry that we'd likely hit a boat, that I had likely hit a boat, I was getting frustrated and not knowing what was going on and wanted to call the cops.
And did you at that point?
No.
Why not?
Angelina felt it wasn't wise. We didn't have any information. We didn't know what had been going on. So she didn't feel like it would be helpful.
So once you confirmed that a boat was hit, then what do you do?
We both decided that we need to call the police, and Angelina makes that phone call.
We hear, before 911 picks up, we hear a recording of Angelina talking. You've heard that before from today?
Yes.
Was that the beginning of the conversation, what we hear there on that recording?
No, Angelina was reassuring me that everything was going to be okay. We just have to tell the truth.
may.
Joe, I'm going to show you what we've marked as Defendant's Exhibit GG and State's Exhibit 45. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
Tell us what Defendant's Exhibit GG is.
That is a picture that Lieutenant Johnson had taken about 4 in the morning.
Do you recall that photograph being taken?
Yes.
At that point in time, where were you?
We were in the dining room area of our house. I put a dip of chewing tobacco in, and Lieutenant Johnson had pointed out the injuries on my neck that he observed and wanted to take a picture. So he asked me to turn my head to the side and expose the area so he could take a picture.
When those pictures were taken, approximately how long had you been up?
Approximately 24 hours.
You may.
As you come across the lake that evening, did you see any boats before this crash?
No. If I had seen any boats, I would have slowed and
Objection.
suspended.
When you heard the explosion, did you know you had hit a boat?
No, I didn't.
I don't have any questions.
Attorney Campbell, please.
Morning.
Come on.
You said during your direct testimony that this explosion that you experienced in Iraq, that was the first time you were deployed,
Yes, ma'am.
and you were deployed 2 other times during that.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever seek separation from the Army because of that?
No.
So you didn't ask to not go back, or ask to not go or not be deployed because of that occurrence, isn't that right?
That's correct.
You were in the trauma team, or I believe Attorney Morrow equated to like being in the MASH unit over in Iraq. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you knew the importance of treating injuries immediately in a war zone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, You a lot of details all day. What you ate, what you did throughout the day, don't you?
Yes.
That day. And then you remember being at Ben's that evening, how much you had to drink. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was 2 beers and 2 shots within 1 hour, wasn't it?
Overruled.
Wasn't it 2 beers and 2 shots within 1 hour?
Yes.
Being a doctor, you're aware that alcohol in your body will rise over time, correct? Even if you stop drinking at a certain point, your alcohol content in your blood will rise.
Sustained.
Are you aware of alcohol being a doctor?
Yes.
So you've had to test patients or before surgery, you have to make sure that there's no alcohol in someone's blood, don't you?
I don't.
Sustained.
So you're not aware that alcohol will rise over time?
May I see counsel?
I'm just talking. You're aware, aren't you, that alcohol will cause impairment on the body, correct?
Yes.
What kinds of things will alcohol impairment cause?
Objection?
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Slurring of speech,
Okay.
inability to ambulate or walk
Okay.
effectively.
What about at the beginnings of an alcohol impairment? Do you get all of those conditions right away?
Objection?
If he knows.
I don't know.
Okay. So you don't know what the beginning signs of impairment are?
Objection?
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Slurring of speech, difficulty walking.
Do you know, or have you ever studied the effects of alcohol on the body?
Not to the degree of what you're asking.
Do you know whether or not alcohol causes confusion?
Yes.
And does it?
Yes, it can.
What about memory loss? Can alcohol cause memory loss?
Yes. In excess.
So you remember going to the house on the lake, right?
Yes.
Eating lunch, eating dinner, going to the beach, and going out with your wife and daughter that day, correct?
Objection?
Compound.
Do you remember going to the beach that day?
Yes.
Do you remember having lunch that day?
Yes.
Do you remember having dinner that day?
Yes.
And you remember having several hot dogs that day for dinner?
Yes.
What were you drinking with those hot dogs?
Water.
Okay. You remember getting a hold of Andy, whether he called you or you called him, but you remember talking to him, correct?
Yes.
And you remember going to Andy's campground, is that right?
Yes.
And you recall it taking you 20 minutes to get there, is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall if there were any boats on the lake on the way to Andy's campground?
Not specifically, but
Do you recall seeing any, not specific number, but do you recall seeing boats on the lake?
yes.
Have you seen boats on that lake before?
Yes.
Have you seen both fishing boats and recreational or ski boats?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're familiar that there are fishing boats on that lake quite often, aren't you?
Yes.
Because you're familiar with that lake. You told Lieutenant Johnson you were very familiar with that lake. Is that right?
Yes.
Now you remember an explosion. Is that right? You remember an explosion that night?
Yes.
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that you remember an explosion? I
don't recall.
Well, I'm sure you prepared for your testimony today, didn't you?
Objection.
Overruled.
Did you prepare for your testimony today?
I listened to, if you're referring to me listening to my interaction with Officer Johnson,
Yeah.
I had listened to that
How many times have you listened to that?
once.
You recall also being here for another hearing where you got to hear about that statement as well, don't you?
Yes.
And you recall listening to Lieutenant Johnson this week about your statement, is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall ever saying that there was an explosion to Lieutenant Johnson?
No.
In fact, when you talked to Lieutenant Johnson, didn't you tell him it was a rock or something?
Yes.
Do you recall your wife testifying that she never heard you say that it was a rock before? Do you recall that?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes.
So that was the first time you talked about it being a rock, isn't that right?
Yes.
So you're both, you hear this explosion and you felt you hit something, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so your first reaction to that was to go home,
Objection.
Overruled.
isn't that right?
My first reaction to that I remember is being on the other side of the lake.
Okay. So you already said you don't recall saying anything, is that right?
I don't remember saying anything, no.
And you've already said that you agree that you didn't remember saying something, but you told Lieutenant Johnson if you did say something, you didn't think it was that. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Overruled. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't say that.
But you had been drinking that night, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't a normal circumstance, was it?
Objection.
Overruled. I don't understand the question.
You said under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have said something like that. But that night, you had been drinking, isn't that right?
That's correct.
You had 2 beers and 2 shots at the bar, and then you started another beer at the campground, according to your testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
So in the hour, 45 minutes to an hour that you were at the campground, you only started a beer. Is that right?
Yes.
And what kind of beer was that?
I don't recall.
Okay. What kind of beer were you drinking at Ben's?
I don't remember. I
But you
believe-
do remember that you had the 2 shots of little beers. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you recall the testimony about finding an empty beer can in your boat during the inventory?
Yes.
Was that from that night as well?
No.
You also seem to remember everything that happened after the explosion. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you remember everything that happened from the state park till you got home?
Yes.
You recall going and docking your boat in the dock, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall that night you told Lieutenant Johnson that you were going 25? Isn't that right?
Objection.
Overruled.
I believe I told him I was going 20 to 25.
Would you like to hear your statement again? Didn't you tell him you were going 25 to under 25?
Attorney Canfield Mason, you could pull the statement.
If that's what my statement is, then yes.
No need. So So other than your navigation lights on your boat, do you have any other light that you carry?
No, I have the navigation light and the 360-degree anchor light that's in the bow.
Okay, you don't have an extra flashlight or a spotlight for anything?
No.
For pulling your boat into a dock, anything like that?
No,
You said on direct that you had taken your boat out alone before, isn't that right?
not at night.
Not at night ever?
No,
What about before you met Angelina?
I'd never taken my boat out at night.
That lake that you're very familiar with, do you recall seeing the posted speed limit signs for nighttime?
Yes,
And what was that speed limit?
10 miles per hour.
Do you recall as well that hearing Andy's testimony that he had seen you at the ramp that day?
Objection.
Overruled.
Do you recall that?
I recall Andy's testimony, yes.
Okay. And do you recall him saying that he'd seen you at the ramp before you guys went to the beach that day?
Sustained.
You said you recall his testimony, correct?
Yes.
Did you see Andy at the ramp earlier that day
No,
while he was putting in his boat?
I believe he was mistaken. I wasn't on that side of the lake until I went to his campsite in the evening.
Do you recall Mr. Uhas's opening statement where he said that you and your wife had a skirmish that night?
Objection.
Rephrase.
Do you recall Mr. Uhas's opening statement?
Yes,
Did you and your wife have a skirmish that night?
no,
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that night that Adam had 6 to 8 people on his boat at the campground?
no,
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that Adam had music on when he pulled into the campground?
no,
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that you helped the females get off of Adam's boat when he pulled in that night?
no,
Overruled.
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that you had had 2 shots in addition to beers while you were at Ben's that night?
no,
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that you had more beer while at the docks at High Oaks that night?
no,
When you testified on direct, you said that you had come out of the cove when you were leaving the campground that night and see some lights around the bridge. Is that correct?
no, that's not correct.
You didn't see any lights?
Objection. May we approach?
He said there were small lights on the bridge. That's what he testified. That's what I'm asking. That's not what
Good opportunity for a morning recess. Let's break for 15 minutes.
All right. This court is in recess.
You may be seated. Attorney Counsel Mason.
George, I think before our break, I was asking you about testifying on direct. about remember making out small lights by the bridge. And I think that's after you left the campground. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And you in fact said you could make out small lights by the bridge, isn't that right?
Was as I got closer to the bridge.
Okay. So it wasn't as you pulled out into the lake, it was as you got closer to the bridge. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So how far away from the bridge could you make out these small lights?
I couldn't tell you exactly.
Okay. And you said you have been out on the boat alone before, right?
Yes.
When you said you were adjusting the throttle, when you were talking about kind of accelerating and get the boat on a plane, you know what we're saying when we're saying on a plane?
Yes.
And that's when the boat's kind of going faster and riding on top of the water, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So you can adjust the throttle at a certain point to kind of go down a little bit and still be on that plane?
Yes.
All right. Now you recall throttling back. Isn't that what you testified to on that?
Overruled.
Yes.
Did you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that night that you throttled back once you were going along the lake?
Objection.
Overruled.
No.
You also remember calling Andy that night, just after the explosion. Isn't that right?
That's not correct.
No? When did you call him again?
When I got back to my dock and I found my phone.
Oh, okay, that's right. Now, you said it takes you about 20 minutes to get from your dock up to Andy's campground. Is that right?
That's correct.
And what speed would that be?
That would be idling through the no-wake zone in the cove,
Okay?
which is the longest portion of that ride.
All right.
Accelerating across the lake in the open part, and no-wake zone in the bridge, and into the campsite.
Is that going top speed once you can accelerate through the open lake?
No.
Well, 20 minutes, what speed are you going then?
I don't know.
Does that mean it would have taken you 20 minutes to get back home that night from the campground back to your house?
If I had been observing the no-wake zone in the cove, yes.
Were you observing the no-wake zone under the bridge that night?
I don't remember.
Now you recall not being able to find your glasses, is that right?
Sustained.
You've testified today on direct that you couldn't find your glasses when you got home. Is that correct?
Yes.
At what point did you realize you didn't have your glasses on?
When I got back to the dock,
Okay. And were you able to find your glasses eventually that night?
I don't think so.
Did you have your glasses on in those pictures?
May I look at them?
Sure.
No.
Okay. So, did you ever find your glasses?
Not that set, no.
I assume you were wearing your glasses when you left the campground
Yes.
that night? Do you always wear your glasses?
I wear my glasses when I drive,
Okay.
when I'm out, but at home I usually don't. Around
What
the house.
about for surgery? Do you need to wear glasses when you perform surgery?
I don't need to, but I wear them.
Okay. You said you didn't realize the damage to the boat until you got home. Is that right?
I didn't realize there was any damage to the boat till I got home.
Okay. But you said that you thought at the state park when you kind of came to that something had happened to your boat. Isn't that right?
Overruled.
I felt that there was the explosion.
Okay?
Something obviously had happened. I didn't know what.
You said that you thought maybe you were taking on water. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Overruled.
I could have.
You just said that on direct. You don't recall that?
Objection.
No, I could have been taking on water.
His testimony was he didn't know if he was taking on water or if there had been damage.
Sustained.
Okay. So at the state park, you realize that you have some damage to your boat then, right?
Objection.
I wasn't at
Overruled.
the state park. It was in the general vicinity of the state park.
Right, not at the, but at some point, you think you might be taking on water. You didn't know if you were.
I didn't know if I was.
So you decide, is there some docks there near the state park?
I never launched at that state park. I know there's a ramp.
Okay. But there's obviously land right there, right?
There's a shoreline. I don't know if there's rocks that you could pull up to or not.
Okay. But you decide to go all the way back home.
Yes.
How long does it take you to get from the state park to your house?
That night or
That night.
a few minutes.
You said before that when you got home, it took you a few minutes to get up to the house. Is that right?
Objection.
I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I was down at the dock securing the boat looking for my phone.
Okay. And how long were you down there?
Approximately 10 minutes.
And did you ever find your phone?
Yes.
And what did you do with your phone?
I called Andy.
Okay. And is that when you told him that you hit something and it's not good?
I remember that phone call as him saying he was responding to a distress call, and that was the extent of our conversation.
You didn't say anything to him during that call?
I don't remember or recall.
And that's not until you get home, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you tried several other times to call Andy? Or was that before that call?
There was one or two before I
Okay.
connected to him, and then after that I tried to call back, but nobody answered.
Did you ever think, let me ask this, did you ever go and try to respond to that distress call?
I didn't know there was a distress call.
Did you hear any cries for help on the lake?
No.
What about when you said you got around the vicinity of the state park? Did you stop your boat at that point?
No.
You just kept going?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's just at the vicinity of the state park that you realized that something may have happened.
Yes.
Did you call anyone at that point?
No.
You testified that you wanted to call 911 before Angelina actually called. Is that correct?
Yes.
You didn't call 911 when you first got it home, did you?
No.
Did you call 911 after you heard Andy's was out going on a distress call?
No.
What about after you talked to Nick or Sherry?
I never talked to Nick or Sherry.
You've already testified that Angelina took your phone, right?
Correct.
Did she hide it from you?
No.
As a doctor, you take, do you still take the Hippocratic Oath? Is that what you do as a doctor?
Yes.
What is that?
It's an oath that you take when you graduate from medical school.
Okay. But what does it say?
I don't remember the details of it.
Is it about saving lives and stuff like that?
Yes.
When you're at Ben's restaurant, obviously you have you took half the day off and you're kind of celebrating, aren't you?
No.
You're not celebrating?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Are you celebrating that night?
No.
At one point at Ben's restaurant, you guys all kind of clink your beers together and do like a cheers. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You weren't celebrating and having the day off or the night off or anything?
No.
And you were you on call that evening?
No.
At the point, and now it's going back to when you're back at your house. At the point that Angelina calls 911, you know you've hit a boat at that point. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson when he's there that you hit a boat?
No, because I didn't know I hit a boat prior to us calling the police.
You just said that you knew you hit a boat prior to calling 911.
We had just found out and immediately called 911.
Okay, and how long did it take Lieutenant Johnson to get there?
Within minutes?
Okay, so by the time he got there, you knew you hit a boat, right?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes.
Do you ever tell Lieutenant Johnson that you hit a boat that night?
No.
You talked with your wife approximately an hour before calling 911 that night, isn't that right?
We did not talk the whole time.
Okay. So there's other things going on?
She's trying to make phone calls.
Is she trying to investigate what happened?
Objection.
Rephrase.
Is she trying to find out what happened?
Objection.
Overruled.
I don't know.
You don't know what she's doing when she makes other phone calls?
She's trying to call people from the dock.
Do you recall seeing Andy Krogan's statement as part of preparing for this case, like the videotape?
Yes.
Did he ever say anything about a life jacket in that statement?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you ever hear anyone talk about a life jacket before the other day?
Objection.
Overruled.
Which other day?
The other day when Andy Krogan talked about a life jacket, did you ever hear anyone say or talk about a life jacket?
No.
One second.
You may.
Do you recall seeing Becca Jones that evening? Todd Jones' daughter?
Yes.
And who was she with?
She was
Could you frame the question in terms of when?
Okay. Could you tell us when you saw her?
on the dock.
And at what point? Was that after Ben's, before Ben's?
After Ben's.
Okay. And who was she with?
I believe the group of people that had pulled up from the boat.
Okay. Do you recall any of those people, any of them you recognized?
I remember seeing Adam and Melissa.
Okay. Did anyone offer you a ride home from the docks that evening?
No.
May redirect.
Thank you. Jill, the prosecutor just asked you, when you were testifying before we took the break, did you ever seek separation from the military after you were in Tikrit in Iraq? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
You said you did not. Why did you not seek separation?
I didn't feel anything I had done or experienced was any different than anyone else.
You need to speak up. I can really hear you.
I didn't feel anything that I had done or experienced was any different than anyone else, and felt I still had an obligation to my future deployments.
The prosecutor asked you a series of questions about what you told Lieutenant Johnson. Did Lieutenant Johnson ever ask you, did you see any lights on the shore?
No.
Did Lieutenant Johnson ever ask you what you did on the dock at Andy's?
No.
Did he ever ask you about the conditions of Andy's dock?
No.
Did he ever ask you who was on Andy's dock?
No, he didn't.
Did Lieutenant Johnson ever ask you about your throttle speed across the lake?
No.
Did he ever ask you about touching the throttle?
No.
Did he ever ask you about your glasses?
No, he didn't.
Do you recall reviewing photographs that were taken by ODNR and law enforcement in this case?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing photographs of your boat?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing any photographs that had your eyeglasses in them?
No.
Do you recall seeing any photographs that showed a beer can on your boat?
No.
Did you know there was a beer can on your boat?
No.
Did you know where it was found?
No.
You had testified when Lieutenant Johnson arrived and you began talking. At that point in time, he's raised the issue that the boat has been hit.
Yes.
And at that point in time, you know that you hit her.
Yes.
What do you describe for him that you thought happened?
I told him I thought I hit a rock or something.
You and Angelina do explain to him that once you realize you hit a boat, that's when you call 911.
Yes.
Now, there were a lot of people you testified getting out of this boat on Andy's dock as you were sort of getting ready to leave.
Yes.
And by that point in time, had you gotten a phone call from Angelina, or had you talked to Angelina about heading home?
Yes.
And do you tell them Angelina wants me to go home, I gotta get out of here?
Yes.
At that point in time, you were asked, do you want us to take you home and leave your boat here?
I don't recall.
Well, were there any discussions about leaving your boat there and driving home because you could get home faster that way and having somebody take you?
Yes.
Before you left, did anybody indicate to you in any way that they didn't think you were fit to drive your boat home?
No.
provided some testimony about down by the state park. That's when you have, after hearing the loud noise, the first recollection
Yes.
of events. At that point in time, did you know your boat had been damaged?
No, not to the extent. No.
Did you have concerns that it might be?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the explosion that I had heard. And that sound, I felt possibly that, did I have a hole in the boat? Was I taking on water? I didn't know.
Prosecutor asked you if you ever heard Anthony Krogan mention a life jacket. Do you recall reviewing witness statements and discovery in this case?
Yes.
Do you recall anyone, including Constantina Covert, ever mention a life jacket before being in this courtroom today?
No.
You don't have any other questions.
Recross?
You do recall telling Lieutenant Johnson that you didn't see any lights, is that correct?
Yes, I was referring to boating lights.
Oh, so you just made that
Objection.
jump that he was just talking about voting lights, is that what you're telling us?
Overruled.
Yes.
When you're out on the boat and you're coming to the bridge, you said you see some lights by the bridge. How can you tell whether they're shore lights or boat lights?
Based on the horizon?
Okay. But you do see some lights.
In the
Right.
distance, yes.
Now you recall some discussion at the campground about someone wanting to give you a ride home, is that right?
Sustained as to form.
Do you now recall some discussion about someone wanting to give you a ride home?
Objection.
Overruled.
To expedite getting home to Angelina? Yes.
Not for any other reason?
No.
I have no further questions.
Any follow-up?
No.
You may step down. Thank you. Attorney Morrow, Attorney Uhas, any additional witnesses?
No additional witnesses. We would ask pursuant to Ohio Ordinance Rule 201, judicial notice. It provides that the court may take judicial notice of a fact that must be one not subject to reasonable dispute, either because it's generally known or because it's capable of accurate and ready determination by resort to sources whose accuracy cannot be reasonably questioned. We would ask the court to take judicial notice that on the evening of May 8th into the morning of May 9th, that it was a full moon that did not rise until 12:39 a.m. Approximately 40 minutes after this accident. There's been some question, and the OPR report says there is a partial moon that evening. Local weather printouts from both U.S. Naval Observatory and for the weather history from weatherunderground.com both confirm that fact.
We would object to that being taken into under judicial notice. That's not a fact that the judiciary normally has control of. They should have put out a witness if they wanted to talk about the weather of the moon rising and what stage of the moon it was.
In fact, the rule does provide it doesn't have to be something that has to do with the law. If it is a fact capable of accurate and ready determination by resort to sources whose accuracy cannot be reasonably questioned, the court is permitted to take judicial notice. I don't believe that the U.S. Naval Observatory can be readily questioned, nor the weather history under underground.weather.com, I'm flipping those, can be questioned. I have copies of both of those documents.
Have you marked them?
He's asked us to mark them. There is, and I'm looking forward to the notes, there is actually one prior case that I could find where the court did take judicial notice of other conditions based upon printouts from the rule. We mark these as Defendant's Exhibit HH, which is the underground weather.com, and II, which is the U.S. Naval Observatory.
I have never been asked to take judicial notice of this type of fact, but I will take a look at Evidence Rule 201 and the exhibits that have been marked HH and II, and once I do that, let you know whether or not I am going to admit them over objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense does not have any other expert witnesses, obviously subject to admission of the exhibits.
And is there any rebuttal from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's take a recess. I would ask that counsel go over the exhibits that the defense has marked. Advise the court, once you've done that, whether or not there are any objections to the admission of those exhibits, and then we will come back into court relative to any motions by either side. We'll stand in recess for a brief time.
All rise. This court is in recess.
During the recess, I did have an opportunity to take a look at Ohio Evidence Rule 201 as it relates to judicial notice, and a case provided by the defense, State v. Johnson, citation 2006, Ohio App Lexus 1197, decided in March of 2006. There is a difference between judicial knowledge versus judicial notice, and Johnson stands for the proposition, looking at, in fact, the U.S. Naval Observatory report as it relates to weather on the day, that the court did not abuse its discretion by taking judicial notice of that report. So I am going to, over objection from the state, accept Defense Exhibit II, U.S. Naval Observatory. I'm not certain what weather underground is, so I'm going to exclude Defense Exhibit HH. Has counsel had an opportunity to go over the balance of the defendant's exhibits?
We have, Your Honor.
Attorney Hughes.
Judge, I think if I may, the easiest way to do this is to first tell you the ones that we have withdrawn, and then I will tell you the balance of exhibits that we want to admit. And I don't believe there are any objections to those, and then there's a joint exhibit I'll tell you about. So if that's acceptable, we would withdraw exhibits that were previously marked Defendant's Exhibit D, as in David, F as in Frank, H as in Henry, I as in Stanter, P as in Paul, and W as in Walter. With those exceptions, we would then move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit A through Defendant's Exhibit II, which is the report for which you just took judicial notice. Of course, HH, which was refused by the court, will be excluded from that. I believe as to all of these exhibits, having conferred with counsel for the state, there are no objections to any of those exhibits.
Your Honor, to be clear for the record, though, P, the certain single laws that the defense identified, I objected to those, but we're agreeing that there's a joint exhibit of all the Ohio navigation rules, which are kind of a condensed version of that big, thick U.S. Naval Coast Guard navigation rules. And I believe that everybody's testified to different rules, so we decided to put a whole joint exhibit together.
I think the objection is beside the point because we withdrew it for that. We withdrew it. And so having said that, then we do jointly have marked and jointly move for the admission of Joint Exhibit 1, which is a collection of all of those rules about which there has been testimony throughout the course of the proceedings.
So defense exhibits D, F, H, I, P, and W are withdrawn,
Yes,
and defense exhibits A through II are admitted without objection. Of course, HH has been excluded, along with joint exhibit number 1 being admitted.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Morrow, Attorney Newhouse.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point in time, the defense will move pursuant to Criminal Rule 29 for a motion of judgment, move for judgment of acquittal. There are 4 counts pending before the court. Count 3 is an OVI pursuant to 154711A1. Under that code section, the state of Ohio is required to show that Joseph Yurich was impaired at the time of operation of his motorboat. Ohio law recognizes that 154711A1 is analogous to 451119A1. The only difference is the operation of the motorboat versus motor vehicle. And so the statutes are to be construed in a consistent manner and with consistent legal standards. That is in State v. Ferguson. The Hamilton County Court of Appeals recognizes there's not a lot of case law there on OVIs with boating accidents. So they started using the case law from OVIs with motor vehicles. It is not sufficient to show that Joe Yurich had a couple of years and a couple of many years. It is not sufficient to even show that maybe he smelled of alcohol or maybe had bloodshot eyes. There's been no testimony of any of that. But the A1 section very clearly requires, by proof beyond reasonable doubt, that he was impaired. In fact, there's one court that found where there's no observed erratic driving, and the police officer didn't witness impaired motor coordination, did not instruct the arrestee to perform field sobriety tests. There was no probable cause to even arrest. The mere presence of drunkenness, bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, and odor of alcohol isn't sufficient probable cause to arrest from OVI. Here we don't have any of that. The one person that would have been charged with assessing whether or not there was sufficient probable cause to arrest from OVI was Lieutenant Johnson, who consistently and repeatedly in his report, as he admitted during his testimony, noted that there were no signs of impairment. I don't believe him coming in here and saying no obvious signs gets us over the hurdle for Rule 29. The state needs to be able to point to specific articulable facts to support that some belief of impairment. And Lieutenant Johnson testified he went so far as to instruct others to gather evidence to show that Joe was not impaired. If you look at under the influence of jury instruction, the question is what effect, if any, alcohol consumed by the defendant had on him at the time and place involved. If the consumption of alcohol so affected the nervous system, brain, or muscle so as to impair to a noticeable degree his ability to operate a vehicle, then the defendant is under the influence. When Lieutenant Johnson repeatedly says there's no obvious signs, they do not get past they need to show a noticeable degree of impairment. Because there has been no evidence that Joe was impaired at the time of the accident, we would ask for a Rule 29 acquittal as to count 4. Obviously, that loops into counts 1 and 2 without impairment. The court cannot find sufficient evidence for the aggravated vehicular homicide and the aggravated vehicular assault. I have outlined the cases on that previously. I reviewed those cases. The final count, which is 154710, requiring an operator to stop after an accident. The statute clearly provides having knowledge of the accident and stopping to the extent that it is safe and practical. The state of Ohio has had the burden to prove that Joe Yurich knew there was an accident with another boat and that it was practical and safe for him to stop. There's been no evidence to support either one of those, and for that reason we would ask for judgment of acquittal as to count.
Thank you. Attorney Cantillas.
Your Honor, I think we've argued the same point before. This defendant is reckless coming out of that campground. Immediately after getting in his boat, he drives at a fast pace. We have witnesses saying that he's making way. They're wondering why he's going so fast going there. He testifies once he gets to the open lake that he kind of floors it or does whatever, pushes the throttle, goes fast because he wants to get home to his wife soon. He wants to get home fast. And he tells Lieutenant Johnson he's going 25, at least 25. And reckless at night on the water, going 2.5 times the speed limit, when things could just pop out of that dark water. He doesn't see lights, but sees lights on the shores. It's unclear what his testimony is to that. But he told Lieutenant Johnson he could see any lights. His memory about that is confusion. And he tells Lieutenant Johnson that. So Lieutenant Johnson is able to show confusion, memory loss, not sure whether he hit a rock. There was some testimony back and forth about he knew he hit a boat before he called 911. Then when Lieutenant Johnson got there, he kept calling a rock. But at that point, he knew it was a boat. Now he testifies that he heard an explosion at the point in time and just takes off. Well, we know he didn't just take off. He argued with the other boat occupant and then takes off. And he goes to the state park and then realizes that it might have been something, and he might have hit something, and something like to that effect. But I think we had the same argument for the OVI as the aggravated vehicular homicide earlier and the aggravated vehicular assault earlier. There's definitely been some evidence of impairment, and again, since it's a Rule 29 motion, it's in the light most favorable to the state at this point as well. And we ask that you overrule that motion as to those counts. This defendant also wasn't there when Lieutenant Johnson or anyone got to the water. He had left. So no one has any interaction with the defendant until almost 2 hours later. So whether or not he's showing impairment then or obvious signs of impairment or highly intoxicated, we have to show it's at the time that he committed the crash or at the time that he was operating that boat on the water. Because he's acting so erratic on the water and pushing the dangerous limits of that boat on the water in these dark waters where anything can pop out, he definitely has signs of impairment. Now, for count 5, failure to stay and report an accident or failure or leaving the scene of an accident, he knows by his own testimony that there's an explosion. He knows something happened, and he runs away. This defendant should have stayed there. If he realized at the vicinity of the state park That's something I think he should have went back there, not go home and wait an hour or so, and then call the cops, and then pretend maybe it was a rock. So we'd ask you to overrule the Rule 29 motion based on all the counts, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The state just presented a lot of argument about reckless conduct. They have not indicted Mr. Yurich under that code section. He has been indicted under A1B, which is for being under the influence. The reckless standard that she just cited does not apply in this case. The reckless section is not a lesser included offense of the A1B section. So all of the arguments that she presented counter to the Rule 29 motion as to what he has been indicted for are irrelevant. If we get past that, the state has conceded they have to show at the time of operation impairment all of the evidence that was presented prior to him getting in that vote on the block that evening consistently confirmed there was no indications of any impairment. There was no evidence his driving was erratic. There was no evidence he was pushing the limit. And again, all of those arguments from the state go to recklessness, which cannot and should not be considered on Rule 29 for aggravated vehicular homicide and aggravated vehicular assault under the A1B sections.
Thank you. Once again, construing the evidence in the light most strongly in favor of the state, as I must, I am going to overrule the defendant's Rule 29 motion for judgment of acquittal. May I see counsel brief? At this time, we are going to take a noon recess and resume with closing arguments at 12:30.
All right.